Heroes in Crisis issue 4, Tom King writing, Clayman on art. It's an interesting book for a number of reasons. Not all of them good, not all of them bad. It's
Yeah.
kind of a weird issue in that sense. We should probably deal with the controversy first, which is some of the art. Not that Clayman's art in general is bad, because in general Clayman's art is very good. There is a couple of pages in this one though that are oddly sleazy as hell, and I'm not exactly sure why all of a sudden there's these really two bad pages.
Do you know what? It's really worse coming off of that awful cover a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, because it feels because King's response to that was mostly on point. I mean, it wasn't like a million times better the fixed version, but it was definitely like, okay, we heard the complaints,
Yeah.
we fixed it. But there's two pages in this. There's one that just feels like random for no reason, which is Lois standing in her underwear, and I'm like, this doesn't affect the scene at all. Like, you could just go to the next page and start
I think
there.
what was really weird is she's standing there posing and saying, "What do you want me to do?"
Yes.
And there's an obvious implication, and then it's not anything like that.
Yeah.
No.
I think the biggest problem for me is that it conflicts with the tone. Like it'd be one thing if it was a really cheesy book and there was a ton of cheesecake on every direction.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Yeah.
no, it's this really serious tone about the people
About
being
murder.
murdered. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be
Like-
caring about these characters, and Lois is standing there in their underwear, really
Yeah.
all sultry. Because it's not so much that I'm opposed to Lois having sultry. Like, if you want to do pin-ups, do pin-ups. That's what they're there for. Go do
Yeah.
pin-ups, whatever. But it just
But no, but like Connor said, it's the context. It's
Yeah.
not like the last time we saw Lois and Clark. It was this playful tone, like it is here
Right,
when it
because
starts.
I
Because
thought it was meant to be like, oh, it's a distraction. They're doing something
Yeah.
else, right? And
Right.
then Clark's going to bring the mood down. But no, it's actually they're already
Yeah.
on this topic.
yeah,
Right.
which would have probably made the page justifiable if that was the point. Is that they'll try to take their minds off of it with
Right.
sexiness, and nah, it's not
Yeah.
working. It didn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I think that is the lesser of the two evils, because I think the other page that is getting a lot of criticism, and I think quite rightly, is the Batgirl page where she's in it's her interview, and instead of saying anything, she shows off her bullet wound.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that concept. If you start that page with her like trying to speak and going, you know what, I'll just show you, and
Yeah.
she just gets up and shows the bullet wound,
Right.
that'd be fine.
because it shows an intimacy,
Yeah.
right? Like
That-
I got that's what that page was going for, but I had to read it twice because I'm like, what is going on here? Why is she taking off her belt?
Yeah,
And then because there's no context for it. Again, it's all the context.
and that's the thing here. Not only there's the thing I'm about to complain about, just generally bad anyway. Because I think unlike the Lois page, this one is not justifiable by anything. I can't imagine a version of this where this art's okay, but
Yeah.
she stands up, she takes off her belt, and she shows her bullet wound, and then she turns around and shows the exit wound, which is the worst part, of course, is the exit wound part, because it's just here, look at my ass. But the problem is, so Clayman's art is typically very good, but for some reason, his Batgirl here, I mean, her head's fine. Her head looks great. Like, when I get to Batgirl issue 30 later, I'm going to be talking about how much worse the head is in that. But
Yeah.
the body, the suit is painted on Layfield style, where it's like just it's.
Yep.
Actually, I saw. I think it was Jen Bartel on Twitter was talking about boob socks and how some artists draw boobs just kind of like like completely well defined through whatever they're wearing.
It's something
Yeah.
that applies to the rest of the book as well with Batgirl.
Yeah, that does.
Which is more jarring because Harley Quinn's in those scenes in the classic outfit, and it doesn't look anywhere near as bad.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this choice was with Batgirl specifically. It's kind of weird. But the big problem is, beyond this just looking really tacky and just the wrong way to draw this in general, is that the scene's supposed to be this intimate, like her showing her biggest pain, like her showing her bearing her soul. And instead it feels like she's doing a striptease for the audience, because she's looking right at you. She like slowly takes off her belt, because it's a 9-panel grid and she's sort of doing it in steps. And it felt really sleazy. By the time I got to the end of that page, I'm like, I know what you're going for here, but all I can see is just a blatant ass in my face.
Because again, all they had to do was have like a narration box from whatever she's talking to, and like
I don't know if it's meant to be tongue to anything. I think the idea as I was going is maybe it's meant to be a mirror.
Yeah. So I pulled up an article about like clues, and so all of those testimonials are meant, I guess, to be in a mirror.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, then that gives us a completely different vibe, because think about the Donna one from, was that in this one?
Yeah, it was this
Yeah.
one. Well, they're still
or
talking.
no, Black Canary, where she just gets mad and leaves.
Well, no, it still works. They're still talking to something. They're still talking to the robot
it's the idea
or whatever.
Right.
I think I think the mirror idea of no, they're saying it to themselves, right? It's supposed to be like a self-acceptance thing.
It's like a journal almost. Like
But if it's not as but if that wasn't as clear from the beginning as now, I
don't think it changes anything. That part of it.
I don't.
No, I
it colors it differently to me.
But I think it's just kind of the same. I mean, but I think the way the suit's drawn on her body makes it feel sleazy from the get-go, and absolutely under no circumstance should she have turned around and showed that exit wound. It was unnecessary, and all it is just here, look at my ass. That is all that panel says to me. Regardless of what the intent was, I don't know why anyone looking at this page thought this wouldn't come off anyway else.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So we have to get that out of the way because it is just bad. And Clayman's typically a very good artist, but this is the big black mark on this book, this issue.
It's like you guys brought up earlier too. If the cover controversy hadn't come up, then it'd be a little bit more forgivable. But
I think we'd still be talking about it, but we wouldn't. I think it is heightened by the fact that
because there's precedence.
Now it feels more like a trend that the book has an ongoing problem, which is funny because I don't remember anything like this in the last 3 issues that made me go.
No, it hasn't been. And I think that's the thing. It's because both these were Clayman, right? That cover was a man cover. Yeah. So it's like, okay, has he started doing something differently?
Yeah.
Because I don't recall ever having a problem like this with his work before.
I remember praising it. And I think the rest of the art in the book's great. I think the facial expressions are great. I think the art for everyone else is pretty great. It's just this cheesecake element. I mean, the lowest one isn't drawn badly. The lowest one is just like conceptually the wrong thing.
I mean, it's what we're talking about how with the way that the Batgirl's suit kind of hugs her boobs, right? Lois is in a t-shirt and it's very natural looking.
Yeah.
Like it's a very like classy drawing. It's just in context.
Well, also it speaks to the character too, because that's not Barbara's never been that character, like overtly sexualized, and even with the redesign that happened a couple months back, that costume still isn't like it's here. Yeah. So it's not like this was Starfire, who that's kind of her character, is that overt sexuality, or even Wonder Woman, So just the fact that it was a Batgirl and the way the scene played out.
The Babs one is definitely worse in that this Lois page, if you just remove that from the book and tell me that's a pin-up drawing and put that on a wall as a poster, that's perfectly fine. It's a great drawing for that. Whereas the Babs one is like, well, hang on, why?
Well, and to play devil's advocate here, if it was meant to make us feel uncomfortable, then I think mission accomplished.
I don't think it's
there's
supposed
better
to make you
ways.
feel uncomfortable in that way.
Yeah.
I think you're supposed to be uncomfortable about the wound and she's still living with that. Not
well, it made me feel uncomfortable
just to
where
look at her.
This is a thing that I shouldn't be seeing. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, yeah, I think you're supposed to feel uncomfortable in that she's bearing her soul to you, right? That's how you're supposed to feel.
Right.
But that's not how you feel when you read this page. You read this page and you feel uncomfortable because she's doing this and the artist is making it as sexy as humanly possible, which is jarring with the tone of what's going on. Which would be a problem in and of itself, but because I think you have the two main problems here. You have the art itself is just being kind of bad in how it's drawn the suit to over-sexualize it in a really sort of old-school comics way. And then you have the way it's presented in concept where she's kind of staring at you, she takes off her belt, sort of pulls down her thing, and then, worst of all, turns around at the end to show off the ass. Those are two separate problems that fit into the same overall thing, but that's the two main facets here, I think, are the big issue. But yeah, so hopefully it's something it feels very tone deaf. I hope they... I think King's one who does take on criticism quite well. That said, he gets a lot of shit as well on Twitter. That's he made a tweet this week saying, "Hey, New Year's resolution: I'm going to start blocking people who, are just mean, basically."
To be fair, someone was trying to say, or a group of people, that he was never in the CIA.
Oh, this was stupid.
And it became this whole big thing that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, you don't like King, that's fine, but I think he's typically shown to take on criticism. We've seen that Poison Ivy arc. I remember him responding to criticisms about that from Poison Ivy fans, and it felt very humble. So I feel like he will take this on in some way. I have no idea what man's like with taking on criticism, but maybe we'll find out. So how do we feel about issue 4 then? Because obviously we've been kind of not up and down. We've been kind of in a place.
It's still a holding pattern. I like the levity in this issue. I feel was welcome, but I still don't know where the story is going.
I thought some of the levity went too far, personally.
Which
I'm talking about, with the dinosaur at the end.
Oh no, I'm fighting you on this.
Yeah,
hiding the dinosaur was the best line of this comic. I am fighting you on this.
Well,
I'll be honest. If this wasn't an event, I probably wouldn't be reading this anymore.
I think that's fair though, because I feel like because Pete's been saying this to other friends of ours is this might just read better in trade without the breaks in between.
I think this is a book that if it sticks its landing, I think it'll probably read quite well in trade because it'll all be one thing. Because I am 100% convinced now. I don't think there's any room for any wiggle room here to say that this is not a mystery where there's going to be a reveal, that this is what's really going on by the time we get to the end of this book. And I think it's plays a mystery. I actually think I like this issue the most out of the 4. Regardless of the problems that we've discussed with the sleaziness.
It has probably my favorite scene, although overall it's one of my least favorite issues. It's Blue and Gold.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. The fist bump.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was really great.
Yeah. I really like the journalist angle. I like the fact that Lois is like, I need to kind of release something. They're sending me all these tapes. I need to talk about it in some way.
And I like that she does it anyways, and she sends Clark to go tell the other two.
Yeah, I like the Trinity.
Kind of an Ozymandias moment.
Yeah, I like the Trinity scene in the cave. I like the humor there. The fact that Booster's disappeared, so Wonder Woman punches the coin. I like the hide the dinosaur line. I thought that was funny. I also like the scene early on where Batman and Flash are investigating, and they're both like, "Oh, so we both know who did it, right? Yeah, we're agreed. Yeah, Harley. No, Booster. Shit." Yeah.
I read that in Grant Gustin's voice too. So like, just hearing that with his Flash, like, yeah, that was pretty good. But no, I like the Donna Troy opening too with Garth. Aqualad. What's his name? Garth Tempest. Like taking him out and dragging him there, and then that really cool shot with the graffiti that makes up the title page.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool with all the Titans. But yeah, there's a lot to like in this for all the stuff that I didn't like. But as far as the story goes, I don't want to say it's messy because I don't feel it's messy because I feel like it's very focused on what King wants us to focus on.
It also feels the most fractured issue, doesn't it? In that we've got, okay, here's the Trinity, here's Batgirl and Harley, here's Donna Troy with the Titan stuff, here's Blue and Gold, here's
I think
Canary and Green Arrow.
4 out of 9 though, this is exactly the sort of point in the book where I'd expect it to just be like, okay, we've got a lot of things we need to continue, so they're all going to continue a little bit.
I think the problem is, like Green Arrow and Canary and the Donna Troy stuff and Batgirl and the Harley stuff, it doesn't feel like they're continuing necessarily. They feel like, okay, here are new things that that are for this issue.
I agree with that to an extent. I don't actually mind how fractured it is, though. I think this is just like this is a style of writing that I don't mind as keeping it this kind of separate. Like we're kind of jumping around in little pockets of what's going on to build the larger story. I'm kind of okay with that. I did actually like the Batgirl Harley kind of side of it, because it kind of ends where Batgirl finds Harley. Is like, hey, Batman's going to find you, but I'm kind of willing to hear you out and let's go and like try and solve this.
See, and that's where I feel like King nails Babs, because that's something she would do, right? She's gonna hear Harley out, and because she is that cerebral type of character, and yeah, so just the stuff with the art, it feels so disconnected from the rest of the book.
Yeah, because the final moment of the book is Batgirl's saying, "Hey, this sanctuary stuff's coming out in the press. The world's going to change," and Harley says, "Oh, screw the world. It needs to change." And that's kind of the point we leave off on. So I'm wondering if thematically that's kind of a major statement as to what the book's doing. But I like the story in this one more, I think, than the previous three. Yeah. I get that the fractured nature of it's not for everyone. Some people hate it. But I kind of dig it. It's making it feel kind of big to me because it is jumping around all these different characters.
Yeah. Well, and just seeing the Trinity interact in the Batcave, you know, like that's a moment. So, yeah. And then also that reveal of like, what do you mean she can't run it? She did 5 minutes ago. You know, like, but he knows they can trust Lois because Lois isn't going to give away things. Like, she's going to do her job as a journalist without, you know, sacrificing their personal lives. So, but that begs the question though, if, you know, they're getting into the personal lives, how much does this wreck that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'm probably the most on board I've been since it started. Again, sleazy pages aside, which kind of weird. I think the Titan stuff at the start did feel the most randomly inserted to me. Whereas at least Green Arrow and Black Canary, I thought, followed on from the investigative parts with Batman and Flash. It's funny because as much as we're complaining about the Batgirl page, I actually thought Black Canary's page was gorgeous in art and felt fitting. For lack of a better word. It was a funny page too because she just kind of says screw this and walks out, like, you know, I'm not doing this.
You
know,
I think one of the larger problems for me is this is basically halfway through the book and I don't care about the mystery.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I care about the
mystery. What's going on with Booster.
Fair enough. No, like I said, this isn't something that, okay, you know, I can say, oh, no one's going to care about it. Obviously not. But for me, the book hasn't done a job of convincing me why I should care.
No, man, I care. I care about the mystery.
No, that's fair enough.
And yeah, and I like that, you know, Wonder Woman uses the lasso on Booster, and she doesn't even take it as conclusive. She says, well, you believe that you didn't do it.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not willing to.
You could be a crazy bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's always why they say that lie detectors are inadmissible in court, because if you believe it, then it's not a lie to you. Therefore, you're not going to spike the same systems. And it's funny that the guy that created Wonder Woman also created the lie detector.
Yeah.
Right? So
that's one of the best pieces of trivia there is.
Yeah, right?
It's such a good fact to stick here, by the way.
Yeah. And so she has a lasso of truth, right? And so, but, and just her bringing up the Brainiac shield, that is the Legion ring. Like, she doesn't even call it a Legion ring. It's a Brainiac shield that he stole from the future, you know? So there's these little things that I'm picking up on that I'm really enjoying.
It is weird that it's not working. You know, are other powers not working? Is that why Harley could smack Wally so easily? Like, I don't know.
So the same article that I read was that they were breaking down the clues. There, got it. And that was one of them, is the fact that Booster's shield wasn't working, which means someone had to shut it off. And then it also posits if Harley had killed the Flash, how was she able to swing the mallet with such a force, right? So, which means that whoever point of view that was might not have been seeing what they thought they saw, which, with what we know about like the AI and the hologram stuff, like anything could be possible right now, which I can see is frustrating, you know, because it could literally be anything. But our main two things are Harley saw one thing, Booster saw something. It doesn't seem like Booster's lying. Harley's known to lie, so I feel like it's playing with what we know about the characters.
Yeah, to be fair to Harley, I feel like I kind of trust her though. Like, I feel like I'm not ready to throw her under the bus. I mean, obviously just because of the fact that I don't think we're going to end the story with, oh, by the way, Harley killed all these heroes, she's going to prison forever. Like,
right. Well, and also
that would be
don't
the
forget,
best.
yeah. Say goodbye to Harley Quinn. Don't forget too that this article brought up that Skeets, remember, was listed with the bad guys from the end of Batman 50.
That's true.
Right, yeah, it was.
And so this article suggested that Skeets is somehow manipulating all of this. and he shut off boosters.
So that would give an implication that this is actually part of the larger Batman run?
I don't know. They weren't even quite sure.
Because
that would change things.
That's the only piece of evidence they have with Skeets, besides that Booster's shield was shut off, and that Skeet shows up out of nowhere to heal him.
I mean, it's worth mentioning, Booster Gold's entire mindset getting into this book was out of Batman.
Right.
It was, yeah.
Tom King broke him for this book in Batman.
The only reason I say that it would surprise me is because this doesn't feel like it's to do with what's going on in Batman.
It doesn't.
And so,
but if the Skeet stuff plays in and Skeets is evil and working for Bane, it's like, well, hang on then. For what purpose is presumably doing that on Bane's behalf?
Right.
For what purpose is that to get at presumably to get at Batman at that point?
And so I still feel that page was symbolic more than it was, was the lack of a better term, was the opposite of symbolic, literal. I guess.
Yeah.
So if that was just representative of like these are villains in the for Batman, that would make Skeets.
I would have agreed, given that one of the stranger options to be there would have made much more sense for it to be figurative. But then he showed up a couple issues ago, so I'm now assuming it was literal.
I mean, if it is tied into Batman, whatever he's doing, and this whole thing is like, it depends, because I expect this will get much, much worse then by the end. Like, because if this is all to break Batman, if Batman's in some sort of simulation where his entire world is crumbling because his friendships are breaking down, people are dying, Batgirl's working with the enemy, essentially. Like, if all this is happening to get to him.
This is the first issue where I could plausibly see it was part of the Batman story, in the sense of turning Batman against Superman,
right?
Even to even a small level here, but it's
because
I mean that's their personalities. Those are the small battles they do. Batman's the ultimate secret keeper, and Clark being a journalist is like, well, no, people deserve to know up to a certain point.
It's not that much of a fight here. It's a finger on a chest and some disapproving remarks. It's not.
I'm not saying they're punches, but I mean, in terms of if you're going to tell me this is a Batman story, a part of that Batman story, and you have to, part of that presumably is turning him away from his allies. I have to assume based on what happens in this issue.
I don't know if it's to literally turn him away from the allies. I mean, and let's say it's a simulation and he's forcing him through this. I think it's more about breaking him mentally than it is about like having a lasting effect with those allies outside of said simulation once it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
This just feels like it's part of the greater world, So like, I don't feel like this is just a Batman simulation.
Yeah. Does it have to just be like? I mean, Final Crisis is what killed Batman when it was the middle of Morrison's run, but it wasn't like all of Final Crisis felt like this is just the part of the Batman story.
No, that's true. I just mean specifically if this has come from Skeets through Bane.
I just want to know why he would put Skeets there, and then, like in that, where the only time we had seen him up to that point was in the Gift story. And then for this website, I think it was Newsarama that I read it on, for them to pick up on that and then look at like the circumstantial evidence there of Skeet showing up when he does, and like, tell him Booster you need to turn yourself in, Booster's like, nah, I didn't do anything, It's very unlike that relationship there.
Because part of me, I don't necessarily think this is how it's going to end, but part of me wouldn't be surprised if this does end with a reveal that they're all kind of like Inception-like, like all hooked up to something, and they're all asleep the entire time. Which I know for a lot of people, it's like, oh, that's just a shitty twist that people overuse.
I really hope it's not that.
But I don't think it. Other than maybe Roy, because Roy's the one that's been bandied about.
Yeah, we know there's an impact to the greater outside world because Roy dies.
Oh sure,
but
but
told how Roy dies.
Yeah, but we're pretty sure though that none of the other deaths are going to stick. Like Poison Ivy and Wally are not sticking. I'm calling it.
Still in trial.
So again,
I'm not in denial about Poison Ivy. I don't give a shit about Poison Ivy. You can kill Poison Ivy all you want. Poison Ivy's a B-tier bat villain, right?
You're a B-tier bat villain.
You just upset so many people on the internet.
Wally's way more important than Poison Ivy.
Okay, I'm not gonna say that, but still, like.
He has don't even stop.
Yeah, I'm not, but they call her a B-tier bat villain. I say the nay, sir.
You're quite right, Matt. C-tier.
No. Oh man.
That's fine.
The point I'm making is I'm not really that. I mean, I like Poison Ivy well enough, but I'm not a Poison Ivy fan. I am not in denial because.
Clearly.
Was that?
I said clearly.
Oh, okay. But the point I'm making is that I just think, from a popularity standpoint, there's no way Poison Ivy's dead. No way.
No.
So that's where I am on that. But
So what are we rating this?
That's a good question. Yeah, what are you rating it, Matt?
So even though this was my favorite out of the issues, I can't justify by giving it a really high score. Right? So I think this is 7.5. But I feel like I've given other issues a higher score, but I feel like I enjoyed this one more despite.
Oh yeah, no.
It's weird.
If I'm rating this, I'm also going to give it a 7.5. But I'll tell you right now, I like this one the most. This would easily be an 8.5. But I have to knock off a point for the sleazy pages. The Batgirl one especially. The Batgirl one I think is absolutely garbage. So that just is a straight point off because I can't not take points off for that. So 7.5. So Connor, what are you giving it?
4.
Oh. God, you would have thought Bendis wrote it with that score.
No, if Bendis wrote it, he wouldn't have given it a rating because he wouldn't have finished it.
To be honest, if this had the amount of dialogue that Bendis does on this as well, like even more dialogue and in Bendis speak, oh boy, no, I would not get through an issue with this.
I don't think this has a lot of dialogue in it.
I think there are pages where it feels like there is a lot of dialogue, but if it was Bendis, it would be turned up to a lot more.
Okay. Heroes in Crisis, polarizing as always.